as a volunteer.
And I'm Michael van Horsten. I'm a medical doctor, and I've also been volunteering with Adventist Help since 2015. So just a bit of background. Adventist Help is a medical non-profit organization from Switzerland that has been operational for the last 3 years. We started in 2015 as a small group of volunteers on the island of Lesbos in Greece. Lesbos is the epicenter of the refugee crisis in Europe at the moment. It's been like that for the past few years. It's the main access point for refugees coming to Europe from the Middle East, from troubled countries like Syria. And our small group of volunteers operated a clinic in a bus right on the shores of Lesbos at the main arrival point for boats coming from Turkey across a really treacherous channel of rough sea. It was a crazy time for us. We saw literally hundreds and hundreds of patients in the bus with many serious medical conditions. These people had been, many of them had been traveling for weeks or months on foot from countries like Afghanistan, from Iran, from Syria, all fleeing persecution, fleeing war, and looking for hope, looking for a place of safety. And it was an absolute changing point for all of us to experience a view into a world as horrendous as theirs, and for us to be able to make a positive impact on these people, these extremely vulnerable people, was really a catalyst for all our future work. I can tell you of numerous stories of starving children in the bus, of resuscitating drowning babies, near drowning babies on restaurant tables, in the middle of a fishing village, of hypothermia cases, of people coming in basically with severe malnutrition, many medical conditions that were really difficult to manage. And having a small clinic right on the beachfront, we were able to treat hundreds and hundreds of patients, and it was basically the springboard for our next project. And Hilde and Leah, do you mind just telling us a bit about Inofita?
We received a call asking if we would be willing to volunteer with Adventist Help in Inofita. And in the beginning, we didn't really thought that we would be working with these refugees, with these vulnerable people. We never really thought that this would be our call. And suddenly, from one day to another, we found ourselves in this refugee camp in Inofita, that it was around 1 hour north of Athens. And it was quite an experience when we saw how resilient these families they were. You know, they were walking hundreds and hundreds of miles just to find some place that they would feel safe. And although they thought that they would be safe in Greece, without the help of these small organizations, it would be very difficult for the European governments to be able to help. Right?
And it was amazing once we got there to see how organized and established the camp was. During the time we were there, we really saw the importance of small names, small organizations, that they actually were there because they wanted to be there. They wanted to help those people, and it made a huge difference for them and for us as well, because we cannot operate alone. So it was very important to have all the other organizations supporting us and helping us along the way. And we had amazing experiences while we were there. We had a small container
clinic, yeah.
Container clinic that it was transformed in a mobile clinic. Kind of.
Later on, we had emergencies, we had outpatients, and then later on we added a dentist, a small dentist consultation,
and you had the mental health
with a psychologist
service.
So it was small. We were a few, but it was very rewarding to be working in Inofita.
As a primary care unit, predominantly, we were able to develop really close relationships with the people.
Yes.
And that was what Inofita was about. Hill, do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
That was what I was about to say. It was amazing how we were there a few months. Actually, we were there like quite some time, half a year, and we got to know everyone. Because it was kind of a familiar setting, of refugees, of families, and it was quite amazing that people they would call us by name. We would know their names. It was kind of, they were our friends. We felt that we were part of their story, and we could make a difference there with that small clinic.
And we could see how health is the right hand of the gospel, because people would come to us and eventually they would say, I'm also Adventist. And we're like, what? And they're like, I trust, it doesn't matter who comes to work with you as a volunteer with Adventist Help. I trust everyone because you're all good people. And we're like, well, thank you. But yeah, it's not always like that. But the thing is, those families, they really
appreciated,
and
the way they were treated.
They felt that we were treating them as people, as human beings, and not just someone who's coming from another part of the world, and let's do this and go home, and we don't think about you anymore.
Considering the fact that the camp was mostly refugees from Afghanistan, it was amazing to me how easy it was to develop close relationships with people from such a very different country of origin compared to ours, with such different worldviews, with such different issues they were dealing with. And we were able to really develop close friendships with them and be able to really meet their needs. And I think that was what was special to me about Inofita was despite this huge cultural gap that we had, it was so easy to bridge that gap with the health work. And I think that was what was amazing, a first-time experience for me. In Lesbos on the island, it was all emergencies. This was primary care. This was much more interactive, much more personal, and getting to know people, having them work in our clinic alongside us as translators, as cooks, as interpreters, was really special. That was Inofita, I think, for me.
Most of our volunteers, they were non-Adventists. And despite that, they would treat everyone the same way that they would treat, maybe their brother, sister, or whatever. And that's why Leah was saying that people, they felt that they were, that the volunteers, they care about them, And I think working with volunteers makes a lot of difference, because people, when they volunteer to do this work, they do it because they want to do it, because they love what they are doing. And it doesn't matter what is your background, if you are a Christian, if you are a Muslim, if you are if you don't believe in anything, but if you care for someone, if you have that love in your heart, it makes a difference. People that they take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months of their life to volunteer, to care about these people, it's because they feel something about them.
So we run entirely on volunteers. We're all volunteers ourselves, and we've over the past 5 years have managed to build up quite a large network of volunteers around the globe, and we've had literally thousands of volunteers working in our clinics from everywhere, from all walks of life, from all faiths, and we really have benefited from having such a huge variety of people in our clinics. And it's been a chance for them to meet Adventists as well, and to see what we're about, and to see the work we do, and to get a feel of our worldview, and that's been special as well. Not only interacting with patients, but also interacting with our fellow medics in our clinics that we've operated, and that's how we continue to operate. Basically, using volunteers from all around the world. And if you're a medic, a doctor, a nurse, paramedic, and you're interested in maybe volunteering with us in one of our clinics, please get in touch with us at volunteers@adventisthelp.org. Hill, do you want to tell us about Iraq?
Well, Iraq, it was quite a different experience, because while in Inofita, we were in Europe and we were receiving the refugees from their country of origin. In Iraq, we went to their country. And although we were in their country, in this specific setting that we had, because we were in a region that it's Kurdistan, that it's kind of an independent region inside of Iraq, they were also kind of refugees within their country because they were speaking different language. They were coming from a different place. Our staff in Iraq, it was different. We had kind of half volunteers and half hired staff, local staff, national staff, Iraqis, and we were living with them in their country, in their cities, and we were helping their people, right?
And we were invited to Iraq by Elder Ted Wilson to look at options for opening up a clinic in the town of Suleimania. We were there during the middle of the war, at the liberation of the country from ISIS, and with a massive unrest happening just to the west of us in the city of Mosul, which is a biblical Nineveh. It's Bible country, and so we found the biggest need was actually in the camps, the camps of displaced persons just to the east of the city of Mosul, and we were able to partner with ADRA Iraq to set up one of the biggest clinics in the whole region.
We had actually two different settings in the same place. We had primary care, where we had doctors and nurses triaging and seeing patients, and also some dentists working in our primary clinic. And then on the other side of the building, we had an emergency room, and we could help hundreds of people. And
exactly.
Per day. And something interesting is that, when you go to a country and you think, well, or at least I think as Adventists, we always think that, we're going somewhere. Okay, we don't have a lot of resources. We don't have a lot of money. We depend on donations, on volunteers, on goodwilling. But we always strive to do our best, to give the best care, to have the best standards. And when we built the hospital, we thought that, let's build some wards because we want people to stay here and to recover and to feel better here with us, under supervision. But actually, the culture, they would rather go home and stay home, and then the other day they would come and for the treatment. For the treatment. So I think something that we've learned, and then we also try to take this knowledge in our next projects in Africa. We want to give a lot and we want to help a lot, but we also need to have in mind the culture and the needs of the people, because everyone is different. And so we had quite a big hospital, and we used it well.
Yeah, we used it
very well. And we had a lot of people going there.
I think for that project, we had about 300 volunteers. And just with some funding from the United Nations, working with ADRA, we were able to see over 50,000 patients. And these were people from the city of Mosul, people who'd escaped from ISIS. This is deep 1040 window. And like our patients we'd see every day, these were not, they were mostly not acute trauma. Every time a bus would arrive from Mosul, from the war zone, you'd see more and more cases of trauma. And we actually worked with a lot of patients that had blast injuries, and we would do their dressings every day in the clinic and follow them up post-surgery and treat them with their IV antibiotics and just maintain them.
We had some other clinics working during the day, but then overnight,
they wouldn't work.
They wouldn't work there. So being there was very important because we were the only ones there for
serving
emergencies.
them.
Yeah. And although the government promised that, they could in a short time return to their hometowns, there was nothing to return to.
Well, some people, they returned to Mosul, but then eventually they returned back to the refugee camps. So because Mosul was completely destroyed. Because of this network of volunteers that we have, right, that the Adventist Help, the organization has, it was building during these last years, we had the opportunity to have donations in equipment. And because of that donations, we were able to equip all mostly all the hospital. And then it's very important because without that donations, it would be very difficult for us to provide the service that we were providing.
Just to give you an idea, 40 beds, X-ray unit, ultrasound unit, full laboratory, full primary care unit, dental unit, was a mental health area,
pharmacy,
full pharmacy. So an 8-bed emergency room. So that was what the clinic in Iraq was, and we had no idea that it would get that big. We're a small team of volunteers, but God opened doors for us that we never imagined, and we were able to reach out to a really vulnerable community. And it goes to show how God can take a little bit of what we have and multiply it and make it into something really big. 55,000 patients later.
And it's amazing, as you were saying, with a small team of volunteers, we were able to serve almost 100,000 people. That they were divided in 5 camps, but it was almost 100,000 people that we had maximum
at one time. At one stage, at once, 100,000 people in the 5 camps around us. Yeah,
and we were the only 24/7 emergency. Health service, emergency, exactly. I think that
even now, I'm in touch with many of my friends in Iraq, and even the government. I was in governmental meetings there last year, and whenever we speak to them about the clinic, about our desires to return, we'll tell you more about that. The Department of Health keeps saying to us, "You run that beautiful clinic in Hassan Sham, you too. That was really good. Please come back and help us." And just signing all the documents, please come back, we'll make the way for you, just come work with us, which I thought was quite amazing. The variety of things we saw at the front line in Mosul, it was scary. People would come in with the things that were really horrific, was seeing how thin the children were. And we saw that in the clinic as well in Hassan Sham. The new arrivals would bring the emaciated babies. It was gut-wrenching, actually. I've seen a lot in my medical work, but I've never seen anything like it. It just gives you an idea of the absolute terror that these people are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And these are the people that we were serving, fresh out of this conflict. Leo and Hild, what did you see in Inofita? You spent more time there than I did. It was more primary healthcare, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was more mental health.
Yeah, there is a lot. There was a lot. Mental health. Yeah.
Mental health issues. People with post-traumatic stress disorder, people with depression, people with severe anxiety issues, substance abuse.
Yeah, and some of the people, they were also in the mental health issues. It was not only because of what they saw while they were fleeing, right? But it was also the situation where they were living in. Imagine they flee from a country that it was their home. And when they arrived in Europe, they were in these refugee camps, and they couldn't leave the refugee camp, and they were there 24/7, and it's quite difficult. Yeah, and they had a lot of issues. Also, a lot of unaccompanied minors. They didn't have anyone to take care of them. So It was in that sense, in mental health, it was very difficult for them. Still, a lot of refugees in Greece, one of the biggest issues that they have there, it's mental health.
So Adventist Help then was invited to Uganda, to the country of Uganda. So Uganda is juxtaposed between a number of countries at war. So South Sudan, to the north of it, has had unrest for years, and to the west lies the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC has had severe unrest the last few years, resulting in displacement of hundreds of thousands of people into Uganda, which is a country that's peaceful. We were invited by ADRA Uganda after the work in Iraq to partner with them to set up a structure in the Chaka 2 refugee settlement in western Uganda. So Chaka 2 refugee settlement is a massive refugee camp, approximately nearly 200,000 refugees, and the requirement was also to serve the host community, totaling a number of nearly 450,000 people. And from the stats I'm reading, that there's continual influx of refugees coming from the Congo, even now. So the project involved setting up a structure, a clinic structure, and we planned an emergency room and a primary healthcare unit to serve the area. Massive health needs. So the structure is currently up. We've had some issues with funding in the region. It's been a very difficult last few years. With COVID-19 not benefiting us at all. In addition to that, but we had amazing news this week that the clinic is running its first day clinics. ADRA's running its first day clinics with Ishaka Adventist Hospital.
Yeah, it's a church that it's running that. ADRA is helping it. Yeah.
So ADRA connected with the church and with Ishaka Adventist Hospital and with the Department of Health are busy running the first clinics in the hospital we put up in partnership with ADRA and the Latter-day Saints Mormon Church. So it's been an amazing experience. The last 4 projects, a lot of challenges.
So as we were talking about Iraq, right? We see that the need is still there, and as you were saying, Michael, people keeps contacting us, sending message and asking when we are planning to return. And the truth is, the need is still there, and the refugees are still in the camps.
And there is no much organizations working.
Yeah, most of the organizations they left.
Actually, by the time we left,
a lot of organizations they were.
The government the plan was to start reducing the camps, so the refugees could go all to 2 or 3 or back to their hometowns, and then to gradually shut down all the services. So in Hassan Sham U2, there is one clinic that it's operating in our facility, but it's just a day clinic. So there is nothing much apart.
And there is no, they don't have any in any of the camps 24/7 emergency. Yeah.
And if they have an emergency, they will be referred or to Mosul or to Erbil. But then to go into Erbil, it's quite a challenge, because then they have to go through the checkpoint and all the military and
the documents. They don't have documents,
and if they don't go through an organization, it's even harder. And in Mosul, I'm not really sure about the services that they can offer there. So there is a need for an emergency service at the camps.
Yeah, we were back in Iraq a year ago, exploring options for opening before the big COVID outbreak. And it was amazing to see what gaps there were in health services. During the war, there was lots of funding available, lots of NGOs operating. And when the liberation from ISIS was complete in the city of Mosul, most of the NGOs left, the international NGOs, and leaving big gaps in health services. And that's what we're looking at next, is exploring reopening the emergency unit in the camp, because the biggest gap is emergency services. And no one's covering that. And so all our friends are still there. Our refugee friends we've had our IDP friends we've had close interactions with. And they keep asking us, where are the Adventists? We want you to come back. We remember your clinics, and we remember how well you treated us in those clinics. And so we're really looking at options for going back to Iraq. We're planning a visit back to Iraq next month to see if we can reopen the clinic, and get the emergency unit operational again. It's serving a slightly smaller population now. The camp size keeps changing, but it's still a pretty large number of people out in the desert with minimal resources, living in extremely difficult conditions, who are unable to go home.
They really want us to get back there, right? They really want Adventist help to get back there. They've been asking for Adventist help to go back to restart the clinic, and I think it's not because of the equipment that we had, that it was very good equipment, or the structure, but I think it's because the way we treat them, the fact that we had a lot of volunteers, that they really care about what they are doing. I think people really feels that they are well taken care. Yeah. And that makes a difference, man. It's not only about to have a good structure or to have good equipment, but to have people that they really want to serve, right?
And even for the national staff, because in many organizations, and because the government salary, it's not very good, they always look for NGOs to work with, because they, or maybe in some, they do actually get a lot of money. And once they got to our clinic, they were like, "Oh yes, but we don't need to do this so well, because all the others are not doing it." Or
in the beginning,
they were like, let's just do this. Or sometimes they would work, but just because it was a work and it was a job that they would get some money in the end of the month. And as time went by, and we had a lot of volunteers coming and going, and they were, in a way, touched to see that, people from another country with different lives, with, different jobs, they would spend time to go there. They were volunteers, so they would get zero payment for what they were doing, and they would stay there for 3 weeks, 3 months. So something started to change in their minds, and by the end, they were going there, and many times they volunteered. The local staff, they would volunteer to go to work, because they were going for the people. They were serving people, and not just
the work. It wasn't just
it was not about the payment in the end of the month, but it was about
caring about
the others.
They would even do some after hours work. They would go with us to buy some medicines or whatever it was needed, just because they knew that in the next day they would need that, and they would go with us. And
it was very nice, because sometimes we think, Muslims and Christians, they don't get along, and it's very hard. Well, we don't speak the same language. And even if we have English as common language, many times, there's misunderstandings, and it's not really that fluent, but they started to go to our house, and it was really nice to know them out of the work environment. And I can say that we actually made good friends there. So it was a very, very good place to work.
It was really, really special. To me, it was amazing interacting with. They're some of the most hospitable people I've ever met, and we were able to make really close connections, and we still have these friends today. And I'm looking forward to going back.
It's a project in the 1014 window that it has a lot of potential to touch their lives, to change their lives,
and where you can actually see Christ's method, because it's not just going there and preaching and trying to convert everyone, and it's going there trying to make friends genuinely, not just
care about their needs.
Caring about them and their needs.
We had the opportunity several times to share about what we believe, because they were really interested. They wanted to know what's the difference between an Adventist and the other Christians, because there is other Christians there. And we had the opportunity to share about what we believe and who is Jesus, and that it was in a natural way. It was like a conversation between two friends.
And I think the biggest moment was when everything, all the airports closed and everything closed, and Adventist Help stayed there because all the other organizations were advised to leave the country because they were unsure what would happen. And just because we stayed, and we didn't think, oh yes, let's stay because, then they will think that Adventist Help is awesome and they actually care. We just stayed there because we thought that,
we started the project. Why?
Yeah, and it was, the situation was not that dramatic or unsafe. So we stayed there to continue the work. Obviously following all the guidelines and procedures. And they were very touched why on earth we decided to stay in a country that it's not ours
without being paid and not knowing if we could leave because everything was closed down. So we would need to stay there until they would say, okay, yes, borders are open now and you can leave. Because especially in that region, it's very unstable, the region. And some of them, they were saying that if it was me, if I could leave the country, I would leave the country. And this is the locals saying that. And when we decided to stay there, they start looking to us with the different eyes.
So I think, and that's what, again, they were like, oh yes, we are Adventists, and they would
a lot of them
wear the T-shirt, Adventist Help,
only using the T-shirt,
and not knowing what they were really saying. It was more about what they experienced through going to the clinic and to dealing with, all the staff, Adventist Help staff. I do believe that it meant something to them, and they were not just a number, but they were someone special to each of the staff from Adventist Help.
Exactly. I think that's what we're about. Our motto is healing for today, hope for tomorrow, and that's really all that we are. We're a simple group of medical volunteers who have been blessed to be able to set up some clinics in really needy areas in the 1040 window, and through these clinics we've been able to convey a message of hope, and that's really what we're called to do, isn't it? So for me, it's been so addictive. This whole work. I'm really looking forward to heading back into Iraq in the next 4 weeks, so we can get working again. COVID has been a bit of a hamper on our work, with international travel being completely restricted, borders closed. We haven't been able to get back to Iraq. Everything's been shut. Volunteers haven't been able to come either. So we're looking forward to getting back to work again.
And you were saying, sorry to interrupt you, but sometimes the ideas came to my mind.
Sure.
And you were saying in the beginning that the first experience with the refugees in Greece, right? That they came from different cultures and different countries, and it's so different, right? And that it's true, right? We grow up in the different backgrounds as the refugees that we are talking about. But even the refugees that they came to Europe, or the refugees in Africa, or the refugees in Middle East, in Iraq, in the end, they have the same feelings that we have. They have the same needs, right? They love their family. They care for the ones that they are in need in their group of influence, and they really are touched for people that really care about them. And I mean, it doesn't matter if you are Christian, Muslim, whatever, it's your background, country, whatever. Some of these feelings, they are universal, right? Universal feelings, right? Love, it's not something that it's only for the Portuguese that go to whatever country is, and it's that taking care of that people. No, love, it's something that you can see everywhere, right? And it's something that you can show to the others.
The whole refugee crisis is something that's very controversial in some circles, and there's a lot of misconception out there about who these people are and what they're about, and so much propaganda out there too. I think the best thing to do to counter that propaganda is to go out there and meet the refugees themselves and to hear their stories. We've sat in our clinics with people with gunshot wounds, with metal pins in their arms from badly done orthopedic operations where they've had horrific blast injuries in their homes. People bringing in their unconscious babies, unaccompanied minors who've walked 2,000 miles all the way from Afghanistan through Iran, through the mountains, with a trafficker to try and get to safety. Heroin addict parents, kids that have been sex slaves of ISIS. It's the stories are horrendous. And these people don't want to be refugees. They don't even want to come to Europe. Many of them. They want to be home. They want to be in Syria. They want to be with their families. They want to have their culture, have their lives as normal. And the amount of loss that they've experienced is unimaginable. You speak to virtually everybody that you come across in these camps. They've lost parents. They've lost children. They've lost siblings. I remember sitting with a man in the bus clinic in Lesbos, and he just sat and cried. He handed me photographs of his entire family, of his 2 little girls, of his little boy, and of his wife, and they'd all been killed in the fighting in Afghanistan, and he was the only one who made it out alive. And he just sat in the clinic and cried. And I think of stories like that. These are not economic migrants. Sure, there are a few that are, but these are people that are looking for peace, looking for hope, and looking for security, the same way we would if we were in their situations.
And that many times, I do believe that although they need help, it's just like I look at myself and how many times I feel embarrassed if someone is trying to help me, or I don't want people to know what I'm going through, and kind of like push them away, and they're just like us. I'm sure if they could, they would not look for us for help or for food or for clothes or for whatever, and they're doing it not because they like. It's just because they really need it, and they don't have any other way to do it. So yeah, that's the majority of the refugees. They are not going to a better country, a better land. They are just fleeing from the worst possible scenario that they have. So they do have to leave.
Yeah, and can you imagine go to a country that you don't speak the language? You have to go through. Imagine to a sea. You never saw sea. You don't know how to swim. You need to go through a sea to reach Europe, and you get to a country that you don't speak the language. The language that is supposed to be the common language, that it's English. They don't know English because they don't learn English in school. It's like
and the countries, they don't want them.
Yeah, the
it's
countries.
Not just they are receiving them, but they don't want them. So you don't speak the language. You don't have the same culture.
Yeah.
They don't want you.
They are just looking for some place to be safe with their families.
Yeah. So we've had so many close interactions and heard so many stories. It's hard to isolate one or two, but one that really sticks in my mind is a young girl we met one stormy night on the beachfront in Lesbos. She came into the clinic with her little brother and his cousin. She was 14 and he was 12, and his cousin, I think, was about 11. These 3 children, they had fled from Afghanistan, from the horrific situation at home. Their severe unrest in the region. The father had been killed. The mother had been forced to move in with the uncle, who was a heroin addict, and he used to abuse all the children and the mother, and basically forced the children to go out at work at the age of 12 and 14, basically child slaves. And the mother managed to get out of there. She spent her entire savings getting her kids out with the trafficker, crossed the border into Iran, crossed the border into Turkey. When they got to Turkey, the mother was arrested at the border, and the kids somehow managed to walk all the way from the border of Iran all the way to Greece, and they walked. I mean, that's several thousand miles, and they arrived in our clinic on that beachfront after having crossed the sea on a little dinghy on a rough, stormy night, in a total state. And we were able to spend some time with them and just, talk to them and be with them and just help them cope. And the one kid had pneumonia, the other one was just had horrible sores all over their feet from walking. And the girl, 14-year-old girl, she left us her we gave her a contact number. We didn't know, we got in touch with the social worker, but we gave her a contact number and said, hey, if you need anything, phone us. And we never heard from her again. A year and a half later, I got a random WhatsApp message from the same girl, and she had made her way all the way to Germany. She's now living in Germany, and somehow had been reunited with her mother after all these years. I'm still in touch with her and her family. They're safe, they're well. She's finishing school, and her brother and her little cousin are happy teenagers, happy, healthy teenagers. They've put on work. They're looking mentally well, and that's what we're about. She keeps saying to us, "Thank you for what you did for us that night, and just for being there for us during a difficult time." Those kinds of interactions that keep us in the job. It really is.
One person that always comes to my mind, it's this young man around my age. He was like 1 year older than me, and he shared a little bit of his story with me. Like, I don't know, in the second week that we were there in Inofita, on the third week, it was right in the beginning. We first started talking because he didn't really speak well English, and he was learning English in the school that we had there in the refugee camp, and he was teaching me also some words in his language, and we kind of start our relationship, and it was really touched. It really touched me that he was back in Iran. That actually was a Afghani. It was an Afghani family that fled to Iran because they thought it would be safe in Iran, but it was right close to the border. And someday their village, it was bombed. And when that happened, his father died, and his brother lost his leg, and he had some injuries from that bombing, and that last year. And so they decided to run away, and it was him and his wife and his little boy, that it was a baby or like 1 year old by the time that they fled. And they fled from Iran across Afghanistan, across Turkey, through the sea to reach Europe. While we were teaching each other the different words in English and in this language, in Farsi, suddenly he asked me if I was Christian, because he didn't really understand that Adventists, they were Christian. And I said, yes, I'm a Christian. And he asked me if I could teach him about Jesus, about the Bible. And I was really, I didn't know how to react to that. I was not really expecting that. He called me to a corner and he said, okay, can you read with me the Bible, but please don't share this with anyone because it might be dangerous for me. And I was like, yeah, but we are in Europe. But I understood that it was difficult for him coming from a Muslim background. And for quite a few weeks, we were reading one of the Gospels, and I even helped him to download the app to his phone. And someday he came to me. And this was something that was really fast, and I didn't really know what to do and how to react. Someday he came to me and he does like this, and he said like this, Jesus, he was the Son of God. I really believe that Jesus was the Son of God. And I was like, yes, like for me, it's something that it's obvious, right? And he was, no, because I read in the Bible and I really believe he was the Son of God. And then suddenly he'd say, I want, and he does this. I want to do this. And I was like, I don't understand. And I was, no, in the water. And he wanted to become, because he saw that Jesus was baptized, and he wanted to become baptized like Jesus, because he wanted to follow Jesus and to do what he did. And eventually he became Christian, and he is now part of a Farsi community in Greece. But he went to a very difficult time with his wife and in little children. And it's amazing how we can make a difference, not knowing that we are doing the difference. Because I believe that he came to talk with me because all of the volunteers that we had before, because we didn't really have a relationship. But he trusted in me because he trusted in Adventist Help, in the volunteers that they care about him. And even today, sometimes he called me and we talked a little bit. Last time we talked, he was asking me if he could come to Portugal and how I could help him to come to Portugal, because he really wanted to visit us and maybe leave Greece. And yeah, we never know, what our words and our acts, what we can do to make a difference. Yeah.
How you can leave what you have, leave what you know, and just go and take care of others that you don't know, you've never met, you don't know what to expect. And we have many times, Jesus' example that he dealt with, the rich, the poor, the widow, little children, good men, bad men, and how he had patience and always a good word, a smile. And how can we do that in our work? And I think if it comes from you, it's going to be very hard, and it's going to be hardship to leave everything and to go and to minister to those people and to care for others. But if God opens the doors and puts you in their way, it's going to be something that, you don't need to work hard on it, because Jesus' love will come out of you, and you will take care of others, and you will follow Christ's example, and you will become their friends. You'll minister to them, to their needs, and once they know you and they trust you, then you can show them, if they haven't seen already, something different, and they will follow you. But it was very rewarding to know all these people, and sometimes to exercise my patience and love. But I think, as if it would happen with me, and if I would leave my country, and if I would go to another country with different languages and people and ways, I would also appreciate someone to be friendly and caring and loving. So I think we should always, and at least Adventist Help strive to. It doesn't matter if you are Adventist or not. If you're coming to volunteer, you have to come with that spirit, that everyone is in the same level. So you have to treat everyone as you would like to be treated.
And and I believe that we see this as a cause and not a project. We see this as a call to act. And one thing that I would like to share, and I don't know if it's important or not, but I would like to share, it's that what I really enjoy in this work, it's that it's not easy, and we really have a lot of difficulties. But what it's nice, it's that the team that we have, the small team that we have, we always try to see beyond the difficulty. Even when we are really down, someone comes, and usually it's Michael. Michael, it's always very optimistic. But sometimes he's very down with the things, and we really try to encourage each other. And I think that it's very important because it's not easy. It's not easy work. People sometimes think that no, I want to be a missionary and everything will be easy. It's not. Most of the things, they are not easy. But when you see that you are making a difference in someone's life, it's reward.
Yeah. I think it sort of changes the way you see the world. I mean, I don't know. I can see all of us. We've sort of reordered our lives since we started this work. And once you start doing it, as I was saying to someone the other day, you really can't stop. I mean, I've been battling with this COVID pandemic, with lockdown, because we can't do our humanitarian work. It's almost like an addiction that I'm missing, and being able to reach out in a meaningful way to somebody and to be able to really make a difference with their lives for the better. It's really rewarding, and we're all tent makers. We have other jobs. I do corporate work. Hilda and Leah do corporate work, other jobs, and we've sort of, those jobs have sort of fallen by the wayside. They're just a means to get funds to fund this job. Our call to reach out to suffering humanity, and for us that's special. We're simple, ordinary people. But we've made ourselves available for God's work, and it's amazing. It's amazing how far it's gone. Like, just, it boggles my mind sometimes when we see like 55,000 later. It's scary.
Making ourselves available for God's work, because many times we put every other thing in our top list, like we need to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and then we can think about, God's work. Even if it's in our own country, it doesn't mean that you have to go always. But I do, and that's why the Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God and everything shall be added unto you. Because it is true. When we seek first God's business, then everything will come in line. And sure. I think, we do live a good life.
Sure. I wish all of you could come visit one of our clinics. We run on such a small budget. Hild can tell you, we literally we scrape the bottom of the pot to try and keep things going. But we really try and push. Like, I work in the private sector. I run private sector clinics all over the world, and we our clinics in the refugee camps are at the same level as my corporate ones are run. And we really push a high standard, but with a tiny little budget, and we want to give these communities, these vulnerable communities, the best they can possibly get, within our limitations. And God has really blessed that. And I think I look back in awe at the work He's done through our puny little selves. It
seems like it's like the miracle with the bread and the fish, that God exactly, divided, He could multiply. Feed, and actually it's what happens with us, because with the small we have, somehow we make it not multiply, but multiply in terms of what we can offer to these communities and the volunteer. So
or how we can use
can use what we have, exactly. And I think that's why it makes a difference, especially compared with many other organizations that they have 1,000 times more than we have. But God really opens the way for us to work every single time He did.
Yeah, exactly. It's been difficult, but every time we need the money, it just comes in time. Yeah. So it's been an amazing experience for us, and I'm really looking forward to the next few months when we aim to reopen one of our clinics in Iraq. A lot of challenges still to cross before we can do that, but God willing, we hope that we can get back to work and start serving some of these communities again.
experience for me to go to public school. And then during that year, and this would have been in the 70s, which if you look at the research on the history of Adventist education, this is about the time when North America had the greatest number of church schools and students attending church schools. There's a very, very high commitment to Adventist education at that time. And so during that year that I was in the